Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Choi, Ms. Farber, Madam Secretary, Mr. Inspector General Mark Smith, Mr. City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. It is 9:33 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect that Commissioners Suthers, Shields, Briggs are present, and we have a quorum. Mr. President?
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this meeting this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of the speakers will be a speaker in this room will go first, then we will take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off-topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be the cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. At this time, we will move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief Choi.
Thank you, and good morning, President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioner Briggs, Inspector General, City Attorney, and Ms. Farber. Again, today I'll be discussing significant events from last week, providing a crime update, and then discussing our personnel strength. So on March 26th, 2024, at approximately 18:58 hours, an on-duty sergeant assigned to Rampart Division was preparing a handgun for an upcoming qualification when a non-tactical unintentional discharge occurred. 1 round was discharged into the lower shelf of a cabinet, striking a book where it came to rest. No officers or community members were injured as a result of this incident, and Force Investigation Division responded to investigate. We also had an officer-involved shooting in Hollenbeck Division on March 31st, 2024, at approximately 22:15 hours. Hollenbeck Division uniform officers were driving northbound on Vincent Fernandez Street from First Street when they observed an unoccupied pickup truck stopped in the middle of the roadway with its doors open. And as officers began to investigate, they heard gunfire in the area of Mariachi Plaza west of their location. Officers exited their police vehicle and walked towards the plaza when they observed 2 males running in their direction. As the males came closer, the officers could see one of the men, later identified as Gabriel Gomez, was holding a firearm. Officers ordered Gomez to the ground. However, he continued to run towards their direction, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. Gomez was not struck by gunfire and immediately fled west through the plaza on foot. Officers gave chase and located Gomez approximately 1 block away, where he was taken into custody without further incident. When officers returned to their police vehicle, the pickup truck they were investigating was no longer at scene. After a search of the area, the second male who was with Gomez was also not located. A loaded 9mm semi-automatic Palmer 80 Ghost gun was located and recovered from the scene. The gun was found with the action open and a live round partially lodged in the chamber. Additionally, a spent casing was recovered in the area where Gomez was seen running from. Based on the totality of the evidence, which is still being investigated, and the statements provided by witnesses, Gomez was arrested and booked for 246 PC, which is shooting at an inhabited dwelling. No other officers or community members were injured during this incident. On March 28th, I had the privilege of attending an annual symposium of LAPOA, or Los Angeles Police Officers, Women and Associates, alongside with Commissioner Shields. Thank you for attending. It was a great event. Approximately 518 LAPD employees, both women and men, joined us for this important gathering. We were also honored by the presence of employees from several other law enforcement agencies, including USC Department of Public Safety, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, Bureau of Investigations, Sierra Madre Police Department, Los Angeles World Airports Police Department, Montebello Police Department, and Burbank PD. The symposium took place at the Skirball Cultural Center and featured several keynote speakers who exemplified the message, "We are stronger together." I want to express my gratitude to LAPOA for organizing such a great event. And as I walked around the room and spoke with attendees, I could feel the energy in the room. Many of them that I spoke with shared that they look forward to next year's event and how much they enjoyed this year's event. So thank you, LAPOA, very much for hosting that event. Okay, moving on to crime. Crime for the week ending March 30th, 2024, compared to 2023. Year-to-date, violent crime is up 0.2%. Property crime is down 4.5%, and overall Part 1 crime is down 3.5%. Violent crime arrests are up 0.6%. Part 1 crime arrests are up 8.3%, and all arrests are up 14.4%. Citywide, there was a total of 81 homicides year-to-date compared to 66 in 2023, which is an increase of 22.7% in homicides. But comparing that to 2022, the city has seen a decrease of 4.7% in homicides. However, homicides have been trending down since the week ending 3/16/24. So in the past 3 weeks, our year-to-date increase has decreased from 30.8% to 22.7%. Year-to-date, our victims shot are up 29%. 10.6%, or 29 additional victims shot compared to 2023, but they're down 6.8% compared to 2022. Of the 303 victims shot in 2024, 127 victims shot were from South Bureau and 84 from Central Bureau. Victims shot have been trending down since week ending 3/2/24. So in the past 5 weeks, year-to-date increases in victims shot has also decreased from 14.7% down to 10.6%. Robberies, they've been sporadic. In the past 3 weeks, I looked at the trends. We were up 3 weeks ago, 9.2%, and then we spiked to 12.4%, and now we're back down to an increase of 9.3%. But what's been consistent is robberies with a firearm have also been trending down, but they're still up. So in the past 4 weeks, year-to-date increases in robberies with a firearm have decreased from 12% to 6.7%. Again, robberies with a firearm still account for 27.3% of all of our robberies. Compared to 2022, robberies with a firearm are down 32.5%. And then moving on to our property crime. So our burglary analysis, year-to-date burglaries are up 2.4%, which is an increase from last week when we were up 0.2%. Commercial burglaries account for approximately 43.7% of all of our burglaries. Residential burglaries account for 56.3% of all of our burglaries. So our commercial burglaries are down 0.3% year-to-date. And if you look at 2022, they're down 0.4% or 4% year-to-date. Residential burglaries show a different picture. Year-to-date, we are up 8% compared to 2023 and 16.9% compared to 2022. Our motor vehicle thefts are also up 6.3% compared to 2023. And compared to 2022, motor vehicles are up 1.2%. Motor vehicle thefts have been trending down since March 2nd of 24. In the past 5 weeks, year-to-date increases for motor vehicle theft has decreased from 9.6% to 6.2%. And the top vehicles stolen still remain the Kia, the Chevrolets, and the Hyundais. Our personal strength as of March 25th is 8,888, which is a gain of 21 from my previous report. Our civilian personnel staffing level is at 2643, which is a gain of 16 from my previous report. And our reserve officers remain at 443. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief, and I will defer to my colleagues for any questions or comments. I'll start with Vice President Shields.
Thank you, President Suthers, and thank you, Chief, for the report. I want to echo your sentiments about the Los Angeles Women Police Officers and Associates Symposium. It was a really terrific event that really highlighted the leadership of the women, both sworn and civilian, within the department, and really showcased that along with other women from the police industry. One question I had, I think that there were some reports about a suspect who intentionally rammed their vehicle with a police officer's vehicle. What occurred with that incident, and are the officers, did they suffer any injuries?
Yes, officers were conducting a traffic stop when one officer was on the side of the car. The suspect's vehicle reversed and, I won't say pinned, but sideswiped the officer while he was up against a fence, causing some minor injuries. He was transported and treated and released from the hospital. So that was the injuries sustained from the officer. I don't have the full disposition of what happened to the suspect or the filing, but I can get that for you.
Thank you, Chief, and it just does show some of the dangers associated with officers on the street every day, so I hope those officers are okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Shields. Commissioner Briggs.
Thank you, President Suthers. Chief, can you speak to the residential burglaries that are up 8% according to your report? Is there a specific area of the city where this is occurring, or is this citywide?
Yes, I can. Just give me 1 second. So let's see here. Again, as I spoke about in previous meetings, we're seeing an increase in the South American theft groups that are coming here on tourist visas and committing burglaries. We've seen several of these, if you will call them high dollar, high value burglaries. We categorize that at anything where property is stolen over $100,000 in value. We're seeing a lot of that up in the valley areas. And so our task force has been focusing in that area. Without getting too much into it, there has been some success in identifying players, but it's a much longer game for us to start to curb this trend downwards.
Are we working with any federal authorities?
There are federal partners in the task force, yes.
Okay, thank you. One last question, Chief. I know you mentioned the number of sworn is 8,888 currently. What are we doing with respect to our recruitment efforts? Can you speak to that for a moment, please?
Sure. We're continuing our marketing efforts. We're in our RFP, request for proposal process. I think we heard that last week. regarding a marketing entity that's going to address, or I should say, target a specific group of individuals that we believe would be most interested and qualified for coming onto this job. And again, this January and February, we saw a significant increase in applications. I've asked for the March numbers, and I'm hoping to see that trend continue. What our recruitment and employment division is also doing is they've partnered with our CSP officers, and they're having more mixers, if you will, hiring mixers, where they go out into the communities, and then they have what we call pocket tests, where people can take the test, the multiple choice test, to apply for LAPD right there on the spot. And we've had tremendous success seeing numbers of anywhere from 50 people to up to 100 people at one sitting taking the multiple choice test. So we're going to continue that effort and increase the number of pocket tests and hiring mixers in the community so we can continue increasing our application numbers.
Chief, I'm going to put you on the spot for a moment. The conversion rate, the number of applicants that we have, so if you have 100 applicants, how many of those applicants or percentage of those applicants actually make it through the academy?
So I won't, I don't have the percentage, but I will give you the numbers. So my last meeting with personnel department and our recruitment folks, it takes approximately 1,200 applications to get 60 qualified candidates into the academy. So, the January numbers were above 1,200 for applications. February numbers were slightly below 1,200, but we need every single one of those applications to fill these classes.
Thank you, Chief. No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. Commissioner Garcia?
Good morning, thank you, Chief. Question around the motor vehicle thefts, in particular the Kias and the Hyundais. Anything that can be done or that's being done to help reduce the thefts of those specific vehicles, whether it be modifications or education campaigns for the population, similar to like the issues with the catalytic converters? There's city engagement, there's law enforcement engagement. Is there something that the city and or LAPD can support with to try to reduce those thefts?
Well, so, yes, things are being done, but I think some of the most successful efforts have been when divisions can reach out to their community members, and when they have these types of vehicles, or we find out that a vehicle security system can be defeated by a clone type of key fob, we have been getting grants, private funding, and then distributing those clubs or those physical locks on those vehicles, and those have proven to be successful. The challenge with that is we have to get people to come into the station to receive the locks, and then we need funding to buy the locks to give to them. But that's one thing that has been working. Our senior leads are always out there talking to the community, educational campaigns about locking their vehicles, and so that is continuing. I think, quite frankly, these three particular vehicles that are being targeted was a phenomenon through social media on how to do it and the popularity of those vehicles. And so that's what's causing it. But we're going to continue to educate and come up with measures to prevent these thefts. We'll also continue to work with the manufacturers to see if they can modify their locking systems so these cloned key fobs can't defeat their system.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chief, are you able to speak to the status of our deployment at Ocean View Plaza?
Yes, sir, I can.
Please.
So it started off, the deployment started off initially with 12-hour shifts, so 24 hours a day. We had one sergeant and 18 officers every 12 hours. It has since the 11-foot anti-climb fencing has been put up, and there's private security on the inside, and some of the inside has also been boarded up, and there's an alarm system. We've decreased that footprint on the exterior perimeter to one officer and 10 sergeants. I'm sorry, one sergeant and 10 officers, so 5 police cars and 1 sergeant. That's the 4 corners, and then 1 roving around the building 24 hours a day. But just so you know, this is all, we all know we're short-staffed. We don't have the officers to pull out of the field and deploy them to this building. So we're hiring them back on overtime to do this. And we are continuing to work with the city family and the council office to find out when we can get private security to do this. I will tell you, just the other day, we reduced the footprint to one sergeant. We had four police cars, but a couple of those police cars had one-person unit, one officer units in there. And during that night, there was 2 different breach attempts with ladders. They were prevented, but it becomes challenging. So I'm comfortable securing it with the 10 officers every 12 hours. But we really do need help in replacing these officers with private security to do that.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to relieving the department of this responsibility. As you also know, we continue to have some severe facilities problems throughout the department. I went out to Southeast last week. I think I spoke with you since then. Just looking at Southeast, for example, between March of '23 and March of '24, they submitted 299 requests for repairs and numerous things in just that one division over that one-year period. What I'm thinking that we need to do is have FMD come before the commission so we can have a status report on the entire department. I think it's really important that if we're asking our personnel to work, they need to work in conditions that are suitable, and they need to work in conditions that allow them to get their jobs done. So having just gone out there and visited and seen it myself, and I understand that prior to me going out there, the mayor was out there, this is a priority, and I just wanted to, we'll get this on the calendar so we can find out what our status is and how we can prioritize addressing these issues.
Happy to do it.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item number 2, public comment period. Madam Secretary, please identify the first speaker.
Okay, first we have Salam Alem.
Oh, right here. Hi. All these signs are really good, but I don't think you have a respect for people. You ignored me. You ignored my daughter. And you hung up the phone. The commissioners of the police department secretary herself, she hung up a phone. Do you guys know that? This is unacceptable. And then the 77 division, you guys need to look into it. You need to hire outside agents to investigate LAPD itself. Too bad Chief Moore left without doing this. The mayor allowed this injustice to go on. You have so many outstanding officers, but you know what? They are overshadowed by the bad cops. So you need to do something quick. And I did send you email now, you read it. But I don't mind, I'll make an appointment with you again to talk to you. You allowed this injustice to go on. And then, dear President, yourself, you remember I was standing, you were talking to the other guy. Why did you ignore me that day? I am a human being too. I'm black like you, the original black. I'm a human being. You ignored me. That disqualifies you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next on Zoom, we have Jamie Cusick.
Hi, all items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
On March 9th, Ryan Gaynor was shot and murdered by the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department at the doorstep of his own home. Ryan is remembered by his loved ones as a super intelligent, kind, generous, respectable, thoughtful, funny, goofy, charismatic person who always saw the good in people. He answered the door to the SBSD holding a gardening tool after his family had told the 911 dispatcher that they no longer wanted cops to come to their home. One of the deputies yelled at Ryan that he was going to get shot, and then the other deputy immediately opened fire at point-blank range while running away from him. He was murdered for being black and for having autism. He was 15 years old. His family has filed a wrongful death claim against the county. If there is any justice in the world, they will win in court. But there is no justice, and there are no measures that can possibly bring back their family member. I apologize to everyone in this room for sharing the horrific details of the murder of a child. I apologize to everyone except the fucking pigs and the fucking commissioners in this room. Yes, this catastrophe occurred in San Bernardino, but this is the exact same type of bullshit that LAPD gets up to every fucking week. And accomplishing this kind of bullshit is the purpose of LAPD. You are the most murderous police department in the world, and yet you claim constantly to be the best. That's not an anomaly. It's proof that the goal of policing is to manifest the tragedies, like the unspeakable one that Ryan's family is enduring right now. You all set a standard for the rest of the state and the country to be as terrorizing, violent, murderous, and racist as possible. You set that standard week after week. You do it in this room. And it is no exaggeration whatsoever to say that it's not just that you cause violence in theory, you cause this specific murder. This murder of Ryan Gaynor, his blood and his life is on all of your hands. Quit your jobs. Stop enabling this. No one is kept safer by policing. Cops were not wanted at Ryan Gaynor's home. They were explicitly told not to come. They showed up there and they instantly killed the person they had been called to help. You do not keep us safe. We keep us safe. And to all the actual human beings in this room who are listening on Zoom, please donate to the family's GoFundMe if you haven't already. And if you can, it's GAINER. To quote Ryan, make sure you have a great day, be the spark, and make sure to spread kindness. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Okay, next we have Red Chief Hunt.
Yes, I'm going to do a quote from the 44th president. He says, in order to be about change, or in order to make change, you have to be about change. A lot of people don't feel like that the police commission, and let me say this, that they come down here and able to make change. A lot of people don't see that. We as individuals, the Constitution says we the people, and we have to start listening to the people. That's what the girl was saying back there. On another note, I did visit the 77th Division. Captain Smith is in lieu of Narcan, probably approximately 400 cans and more Narcan. And I'm pretty sure that Ruby Flores, as bureau chief of the Valley, probably needs about 1,000. So Sutters, if you can write that down and get donations done, and let's move on with that. It's a lot of crime that's still going on and stuff like that in the South Bureau. Police officers do not stop crime. The public stop crime. You guys really, I know we're your partners, but you guys doing other things that really don't make any sense or not partnership up with us. Just the words to the wise, man. I'm out there on the streets every day. I live the streets. Everybody's one check away from being homeless. We see what is that what envisions, community-based policing, which is people having jobs and stuff like that. People sleeping on the sidewalks, that's no good. People sleeping in the alleys, that's no good. People doing all of these things create crime. And I haven't heard a word about any proactive policing from the police chief or Sutters. And this is why I'm saying that you have to sit down and talk to me about proactive policing, preventing crime before it even gets started. And that's real important, because if we don't start with our young kids, then the older kids get to, it draws up into a whole bunch of crime. The only way you're going to stop crime is through proactive policing. I am the Red Chief Hunt. And tell Chavez that I do need to see him. I'm working on 2 investigations. One report that I filed, and then the other report that I filed on Monday. But we the people are called community-based policing. And you have to listen to everybody that's in this room, man. And that's where you get your best results. And Black Lives Matter don't think you guys have been listening to them because they're not able to make change. Thank you, Red Chief.
Thank you.
Next we have caller 1264.
Hello.
Hi, what items would you like to speak on?
All of them, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Hi. Chief Choi. I'm from the Foothill Division area, and we've got a lot of problems in the residential area where they're saturating our sidewalks with vendors, canopies, and they're just there. And you just mentioned about burglaries and things. I mean, these are people that are in residential areas actually just sitting there looking at people's houses and things like that. We have no idea what they're going to do or who's there. The police are not checking any IDs to confirm any of these people. We had a Palm Sunday where they had tables and chairs on the sidewalk. They were sitting in the street, in the red zone. So if there was an emergency, the ambulance wouldn't be able to park there. The fire trucks wouldn't be able to park there. And the police basically saying, we have no authority to move them. So that's a big issue, the authority. You can get as many police as you want, but if they don't have any authority to do anything to keep us safe, then what's the point of hiring them? You need to have a plan. We need to clean up our streets. We can't have these people just standing around. Who knows what they're going to think up to do to our community. These people are coming from outside our community, and the police just keep saying there's nothing we can do. It's not a crime not to have an ID. I mean, we have to identify who we're dealing with, because otherwise things are just going to get out of control. It's been a big issue for a long time. They recently had an event from the church where they closed off the street. They had police there. I don't believe the church paid for that. I believe that the city paid for that we had police officers there that the taxpayers were paying for. And as a religious event, they were reenacting the crucifixion. And it is a residential area, so they're blocking off all our streets and making it very uncomfortable for us to get around. So, and we had no notice of it. I mean, you would think they would notify us by mail of within 500 feet of the area, but that didn't happen. I believe that the officers and the parking enforcement was all paid for by the taxpayers, by the city. Why? I don't know. And of course, the vendors came along with it, totally blocking the sidewalks, saturating the whole neighborhood.
Okay, next we have Jonathan Foster.
Hello, Jonathan Foster. I had a whole page I was going to read. I got up this morning and God did something else. So one thing, I was assaulted by an officer today. Whoever this guy is I talked was hitting me on the shoulder. And when I see him next week, I'm going to tell him, don't ever touch me again. Don't touch me again! The federal government is the problem, okay? You got a division that needs some repairs. You need to arrest the Pentagon, the presidents, and the Congress. And if you're so strapped for personnel, this is why everything I'm about to talk about, you can't. The commission voted on this policy. It's disrespectful. Sancho Tina, his last name, he took the last name Moore, but he still signed his name as Sancho Tina. Became an officer, and now he's disrespectful. Chief Sancho Tina, no respect for the fallen. That blue flag does not deserve to fly anywhere around here. No respect for Jamil Shaw Jr. No respect for the Jamil Shaw family. No respect for Los Angeles Sheriff Jerry Ortiz, shot by illegal alien. Los Angeles Sheriff shot by David March, shot by illegal aliens. Both Border Patrol killed crossing the border. Chief Petty Officer Terrell Horn III killed, 34 years old. It's all non-constitutional, this DACA crap. The officers' families, they've been killed, murdered, aggressive people, killing these people. You have no respect. The illegal is brought here by the family, has no respect for these police officers. Sancho Tina's wife and daughter, they're not getting raped, are they? And then you said something today about the women's officer symposium. None of those girls are getting their holes raped. And you brought DACA into the LAPD? You disrespectful people. You don't even respect your own officers. Then you got this guy, Jonathan Diller, was shot in New York City. Do you know why? Because you're not doing what I told you to do. I asked you nicely. I said, could you embrace what I requested? Now another officer got shot. He's dead. Who's ready to do the right thing? I'm ready to break your head for the officers. Do you got a daughter? Do you know a husband's wife is somebody's daughter? Got her hole raped. And then you brought DACA in here, is on the police force because you can't hire enough people. Who do you respect? Us Americans? Do you respect the police officers?
Thank you.
Next, we have Steve
Madam
Riley.
Secretary, next speaker. Sir,
What if she gets raped? Are
Sir,
you gonna be like Jimmy
your
Oswald?
time has
No,
expired.
you're gonna be like, hey, we can't
Step
have these
away
no more.
from the podium. Your time has
Shut
expired.
your mouth and do the right thing.
You're disrupting the meeting.
Shut your mouth.
This
and
is your
do the
first
right
and
thing
only
for
warning.
the dead police officers.
Sir, you are being ordered to
Told you
leave the room.
What to do?
You're being ordered to leave the room.
If that officer touches me again, it's gonna be assault. He is not allowed to touch me. When I came here, I tried to respect the place.
Madam Secretary, please announce the next speaker.
Steve Riley, you're on.
Thank you. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
And thank you. The prior speaker mentioned Officer Diller's death in New York City. He's now posthumously promoted to Detective Diller, but his widow and his less than 1-year-old son go on. I offer prayers for them. But let's look at who the suspects were. Combined, those two suspects sitting in the car, one had 21 arrests, one had 14. Career criminals. The system is not working. And it's not working because there aren't serious enough consequences for crime. The same is true in Los Angeles. The NYPD and the LAPD and other large cities and jurisdictions, large and small, can make all the arrests that they can make. But if the arrests, the criminals, the suspects are not prosecuted and there are not real consequences, then you get more crime. Proactive policing was mentioned. Yes, we support proactive policing. We need policies that support proactive policing. But when officers make arrests and then basically the person is back out on the street before they're done with the paperwork, that creates a system of despair for the police officers. You have a city attorney in this city and a DA, Gascon, they don't prosecute crime. All the crimes that are mentioned by the people that call here week after week, arrests can be made, but they're not being prosecuted and there aren't any consequences. That's called criminal injustice system. Okay, so whoever's listening, let's get to doing our job. Do your job. The officers are doing their job for the most part, but they're becoming discouraged. And many people don't want to apply and become LAPD because they see the futility of what is going on. In the comments section, if you want to read about Officer Diller, his widow made remarks. That's in a link. I recommend everybody look at that. And let's talk about the formula of the chief's report. Now, this is no criticism of Chief Choi, but there seems to be a formula that's being read. I don't know who set the formula. Some people have said it's the mayor's office. Was it Mr. T-Frank before he left? I don't know, but it's too formulaic, okay? The non-tactical unintentional discharge is mentioned in the LAPDonline.org website. We don't need to hear about that. We need to hear about proactive policing and what's being done in the community, meetings with the community. the April 16th meeting with the community in San Fernando Valley has not been mentioned. It should be. The La Poa thing, okay, that's great, but it smacks a little bit of narcissism. If you go to the LAPD recognizes the month, there's a photo. Tina Cabrat should be added to that. Christy Hamilton, they died in the line of duty. And Mother Cabrini and Mother Teresa.
Okay, next we have Megan. Errol, when you first took over, you made a big show of saying how everybody who calls in or shows up for public comment would be allowed to speak, and I'm just wondering what happened to that. There's an item on the agenda about a donation for 2 police dogs. I'm just curious if those are coming from the training facility named after Hitler's bunker. I know we've obtained many dogs from the Edelhorst training facility. The founder of that training facility has been sued dozens of times over injuries caused by dogs that come from his facility. Just curious if the commissioners have any questions about that. Another item on the agenda about a donation for youth cadet community operations. Just want to take this opportunity to remind the commission and everybody listening about LAPD's sordid history and continuing perpetuation of child molestation via LAPD youth programs. Again, a little light Googling would give you a lot of information there. Wanted to check in with Dominic about the 4118 report back. Still waiting. Has the LAPD handed in their portion of that report? Finally, just want to note, the city of LA overspent by $289 million. The largest area of overspending was police. Second largest area of overspending was liability claim payouts of $116 million, with the police contributing $50 million of that amount. And due to that deficit, the city is considering cutting 2,000 jobs from the rest of our city departments who managed to stay within budget. Meanwhile, 6 people a day die on our streets. Schools are closing all over the county. Our streets are in disrepair. Do y'all have any questions or comments or position on that? Next, we have Philip Tabby.
Good morning, all items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. You know, I want to send my deep condolences to the Diller family and Officer Diller's Blue family. Last week, Chief Choi briefly mentioned the brutal murder of New York police officer Jonathan Diller, but this needs to be a wake-up call to everyone, especially in a city as large as Los Angeles. Please read the public comment submitted by Voices for LAPD for today's April 2nd meeting. A link from the New York Post reads, "Young widow of slain NYPD detective Jonathan Diller rips elected officials for allowing New York City crime to spiral during devastating eulogy." Crime is rising all over, and Los Angeles is no different. I find it insulting that our police commission does not take this rising crime as serious as they should. Where's Kalanche? Replace her immediately. I'd make a better commissioner. Our LAPD deserves better. Kalanche and her ignorance, paired with her commitment to funding nonprofits such as her own, is a slap in the face to our officers and a conflict of interest. Our criminal justice system is falling apart because of weak people and corrupt individuals like George Gascon. This city needs to do something fast before we have the same situation that happened in New York. Chief Choi, what are you doing about it, sir? When will you make a bold move? So far, it seems that you're just keeping the seat warm, and that's unacceptable. It seems that this department is focused on social justice more than it is on crime fighting. With that said, bring back the blue line flag. What are you waiting for? What are you afraid of? And I have concerns about this recruiting agency that LAPD has picked. They receive $600,000 a year, and we have only 3 employees. Wow. You know, concerned is an understatement. On top of that, LAPD has lowered its hiring standards. How many qualified applicants are being turned away because of their skin color? We have many vacancies in the LAPD, and Angelinos are becoming more frustrated with the police department, who is not as present as much as they should be, and the city leaders who do not have their back. Bring back law and order. God bless the LAPD. Yield the rest of my time.
Next, we have John Ashran Verdugo.
Hi, my name is John Diabrothenel Verdugo. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, 30 years. I was injured in line of duty. And I'm also an investigative reporter for U.S. Senate News. I'm the chairman of the Los Angeles Sephardic Political Action Committee and the executive director of the Israel Foundation. And I'm here to talk about an officer down. An officer needs help, and that officer's name is Ella Brada. I read a report about Ella Brada in the LA Times where it basically states that he did not track anyone. He was demoted before the investigation. He was thrown under the bus on a mere statement. There is a confidential memo floating around that basically indicates that there was issues with the victim. I'm not here to talk about the victim, but to talk about Ella Brada. He needs your help. And I come to you today with the most humblest way I can come to you. Literally shaking before you and God that you take a look at this. Here's a man that deserves to get his job back. If this is happening to an assistant chief of police, what's happening to the rank and file? How are the rank and file employees being treated when someone files an allegation? If tomorrow somebody comes up and says that the chief grabbed them, are you going to do the same to him? Are you going to knock him down within 7 days without looking at an investigation? They could have suspended him. They could have waited until the investigation was complete. And then there's issues with withholding the confidential memos from the public. You know, Ella Brada was born in Mexico. He came down here. He's an American now. He represents a lot of people in this community, and the Jewish community loves him. He went to Israel last year, right before this incident happened, and we appreciate the fact that LAPD supports Israel as well as Palestinian residents as well. We appreciate that. I respect the board. I respect LAPD and the rank and file that put their lives on the line every day. But how does an officer feel to think that somebody can just go make a complaint without any evidence, and you're gonna shut down a guy that gave his life? So I plead with you, please take a look at this. I come to you with everything I got. He's a good man. And I just want you to tell everyone here that I'm gonna pray for everybody. I'm gonna pray for the city, and God bless all the LAPD officers out here that put their lives on the line every day. And by the way, they both need help.
Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Grabner. Andrew Grabner, you're on.
All items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
All items. All right, starting off with the chief's report. Sorry, there's a lot of noise. Since you hold these meetings at the same time, I have to call in from City Hall. So we have a bunch of we have the chief's report. That should be limited to 3 minutes. If the chief's report exceeds 3 minutes, we should be able to match whatever amount of time the chief takes, regardless of how much time the chief takes. All in-person and call-in speakers should be allowed to speak, regardless of who it is. If you don't like us, then you still need to hear from us. If we raise our hand or submit a card, you should let us speak. If you need more time, then cut into the chief's report. Or maybe don't ask all kinds of meaningless questions that you're just, you're not actually asking anything, like 99% of Briggs questions from Briggs. Let's see, we have the consent agenda. We have a number of donations, of course. We have, let's see, let me pull this up. I've got so many different things. We have donations for the audit division wellness, $3,000. This is the audit division that doesn't actually respond to our CPRAs or anything. You know, we don't respond, or you just claim you can't do it because, you know, you make up some reason. Let's see. Breakfast, lunch, equipment, you know, like no on that. No on anything from the police foundation. We have money for employee morale and well-being. We have $9,000 for the teenage indoctrination program, where teenagers are regularly sexually assaulted by LAPD officers while trying to indoctrinate them into being cops. We have, let's see, we have, is this the same thing? If debts, we have more money for training, $12,000 for an off-road motorcycle. Why the fuck do you need that? We have, you know, all kinds of stuff. You're getting another dog from the kennel named after Hitler's bunker. You know, stop abusing the animals by forcing them to work for you. Stop shooting people. Stop harming people. You know, just stop basically everything you're doing. So yeah.
Next, we have Hamid Khan.
It's been a little over a year since we launched the Watch the Watchers website, where we publish the photos of all the LAPD cops. And it's really, really very heartening to see that how successful that release has been, because it's being replicated. It's people are absolutely, we're getting calls from all over the world. I mean, people out in places like Iceland and New Zealand and other parts of the world are really appreciating that, you know, that the secrecy behind the police force is being exposed, which the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition has been doing for over 12 years now, but even the people who carry out these acts of violence as well. And the goal here is that, you know, just that it is really to expose the whole institution, that how fucked up it is, or how rotten it is. And one thing that is really just hitting home for a lot of people is when they see the average pays that people are getting and the average overtime that people are making. That you have a motorcycle patrol officer making over $200,000 in overtime. Now that's a whole heck of a lot of money. And it's all documented, all of these numbers. We've just updated the 2023 payroll as well, and that's going to get published. And it's the same, you know, at least over a dozen motorcycle cops and people are making $250,000 in overtime as well. And that's what really gets people when they start looking at the amount of money that is being invested. And here the city is struggling to find monies and to fill out potholes and everything else. And then again, on top of that, the LAPD is going to get this is a record budget, 24-25, almost to the tune of $3.7, $3.8 billion. A record increase of $1 billion of pay raises for the cops as well. So that's what Watch the Watcher has done to really keep an eye. And of course, the project started back in 2015, and we'll continue to upload that. And what's interesting is that how the backlash has been, and Briggs just left, and his first comment when he was the president was that we are endangering the families. And there are 3 lawyers or at least a couple lawyers on this panel as well, who know very well that you cannot publish any private information. You can't publish the family's information. You can't publish their home addresses or anything related to their personal life. It is specifically of a public employee working for a public institution being paid by public dollars. But here we have the city attorney moving, and then Blanco, what's the assembly member's name? Blanca, I can't remember her name, is now pushing for legislation to change, Pacheco, to change legislation in Sacramento to water down the public records request, where now when you file for a request, they will have to inform the employee, who can then use the counter CIPRA lawsuit as well, like we saw what happened in Pasadena, that it took over 3.5 years. So the fight.
Thank you.
Next, we have Matios Kidey.
Hey, my name is Matthias with Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. I primarily want to talk about the Youth Cadet Program, and I want to say two things about it. Well, I'll start with the first. One, this is a counterinsurgency effort. And that word may not be, well, I mean, most of these cops, I'm sure, know what counterinsurgency is. They put it into practice every day. But for other folks listening, I want to read a definition of counterinsurgency put together by high schoolers we work with in talking about these programs. And this is largely adapted from the U.S. Counterinsurgency Manual's definition of counterinsurgency. And so counterinsurgency is an effort by those in power over a community to establish trust and legitimacy to avoid using resource-intensive, often forceful and violent means of coercion. We know the LAPD is adept at violent coercion, right? But what we're talking about here is building legitimacy. And so this cadet program we think of in the same lineage as, the LAUSD Explorer program, police academy magnets, 9 of which exist in LAUSD, 2 of which are in middle schools. And also programs like Building Blue Bridges, which often in the wake of violence by police across the country or even here at home, will deploy their officers to build legitimacy amongst officers. Building Blue Bridges notoriously had a scandal that involved taking students on a march to honor Tyree Nichols, who was killed by police across the 6th Street Bridge. And then immediately after, having those students use a police VR simulator to simulate what a shooting would be like. And so that's what these programs are. They're just a means of kind of cultivating a new base of officers and fighting against, the genuine disdain that young folks have for police, as they should have. Police are being recognized for the violent force that they are. The other kind of component I want to talk about here is how youth surveillance programs in Los Angeles kind of operate. Whether that's the LAPD's PATH program, providing alternatives to hinder extremism, which is part of a CVE, Countering Violent Extremism framework made from the Department of Homeland Security. Or even LAUSD's own LASAR app, right? Los Angeles Schools Anonymous Reporting, an anonymous reporting app that emulates a lot of these like post 9/11 counter-terrorist suspicious reporting apps. All of this is rooted in behavioral surveillance, right? So all of this proactive policing we've been talking about, that's what we've been talking about, this notion of behavioral surveillance, monitoring young folks' behaviors and assessing whether or not they're going to be criminal. Or, in most cases, this is just a proxy for racial bias, right? So it's just going to be the black young students or the Latino young students that are inherently criminal, and those are the ones that are going to be targeted. And the way they're targeted is through this deputization, right? The PATH program teaches school therapists, counselors, teachers to look out for these risk factors, right, for violent behavior. Similarly, this cadet program is cultivating a group of students to snitch in that very same way, in the same way the LASAR app allows. You're literally giving them a badge. And so any notion that these cadet programs cultivate youth in a positive way is bullshit.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jason Reedy.
Okay, so last week I attended the LA Metro Board meeting, and while there I encountered Lieutenant Matthew Ensley. Name's familiar to you? His name might ring a bell to some on the commission. Yes. Given his involvement in the Centurion's rape scandal. During our interaction, he lied on my name, saying that I had a reputation for battery and that I was arrested for battery. A complete fabrication and one that I challenged him on. Now, I live in a world of facts, not fantasy. I have a reputation for confrontation. I have a reputation for disruption. I have a reputation for taking no shit and standing up for me and my people. But what I don't have a reputation for is battery, and I've never been arrested for battery. And so any comment on your pigs continue lying on my name, do you think that's appropriate for them to be doing? If they lied on your name, would that be tolerated? Rasha, Errol, Fabian? Again, I want to talk about how, in an interesting turn of events, Matthew Ensley was arrested for felony DUI. That didn't make your report. Even though the info is in the public sphere, Choi won't confirm it and didn't feel the need to mention it in his report. Now, given how many press conferences, news releases, and how often you tell the public that a wrong decision can have lifelong consequences, can someone explain why there was this omission today from the chief's report? If any of your officers get arrested for felony, any type of felony, do you think that's worthy of being mentioned in a report? Errol, you gonna act like you're not listening to me? Again, I want to talk about how you don't discipline officers that actually get felony DUIs, and that's proven by your disciplinary reports. In this latest one, you listed, while off-duty, operated a privately owned vehicle under the influence of alcohol and was involved in a hit-and-run traffic collision. That officer got 22-day suspension. They're right back on the force. Now, during this whole interaction, should I say at the end of it, Senior Lead Officer Carlos Tovar was staring down my baby. Not me, a grown-ass fucking man, but a toddler who barely stands over 2 feet tall. And that's how the LAPD rolls, mean mugging a 21-month-old baby. Now, Tovar should be known to this commission as you ruled that his 2021 shooting of a black man was out of policy. For the new commissioners, Tovar and his partner were executing a pretextual stop, and Tovar fired 8 shots at that black man, thankfully missing him, but hitting a Lyft driver's vehicle twice. Now, would someone on this commission like to explain to me how a P2, he was a P2 at the time, with an out-of-policy shooting, and only 6 years with the LAPD gets a coveted P3+1 senior lead officer position? LAPD has promoted him twice in 2 years since that out-of-policy shooting. Make that make sense. Meanwhile, you have, where's Enrique Hernandez? A P2 who's been on the force for 30 years, and he's a P2. And what is his job? To stare down me and my baby while we're kicking around the soccer ball in the back of this room.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Please step away from the podium. Your time has expired. Please step away from the podium. You're disrupting the meeting. This is your first and only warning for disrupting the meeting. I'm ordering you to leave the room. I am ordering you to leave the room. I'm ordering you to leave the room. Sergeant at Arms, please remove this gentleman from the room. That concludes the public comment period. I would also like to mention that we will have the Board of Police Commissioners Valley Bureau Community Mission Meeting on Tuesday, April 16th at 6 p.m. at Bishop Alameda High School. The doors will open at 5:30. We'll now move on to agenda item number 3 on the agenda. And we will now move to the consent agenda items, item number 3 on the agenda. I'm asking my commissioners if they have any questions or comments on agenda items 3A through F. Commissioner Garcia?
None, thank you.
Vice President Shields?
No, thank you.
Having heard none, I would move that we adopt a recommendation for board action on items 3A through F. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 And carries. We will now move on to agenda item number 4. Regular agenda items. We have a department's report relative to the City Council file number 231444, the Jail InReach program. I have Commander Espinoza and your staff. Good morning, Commander.
Good morning, sir.
And the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Commissioners, Inspector General, Chief, Senior Management Analyst, City Attorney, and staff. To my right is Officer Mark Malconnect. He works the Office of the Homelessness Coordinator for the department with me. For those of you that I have not met, I am Commander Giselle Espinoza from the Office of Operations, and I am the department's homeless coordinator. So I'd like to present a little bit of background and answer questions as it pertains to the Jail InReach program motion. In February of 2016, the Los Angeles City Council adopted the Comprehensive Homeless Strategy and directed the department to develop a Jail InReach project program. After approximately 6 months of no support or funding for the LAPD, then council member Gilbert Cedillo's staff facilitated a contractual funding with several nonprofit service provider organizations to establish the program. As a result, in January of 2017, the program was launched in Van Nuys Jail with the Tarzana Treatment Center and in the Metropolitan Detention Center with Homeless Healthcare. By April of 2017, the program was operational in 77th Regional Jail with a homeless outreach program, integrated care system, otherwise known as HOPICS, as a service provider. Unfortunately, the program ended in 2020 when outside visitors were not authorized to visit justice-involved individuals in our custody due to the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions. However, moving forward to where we are today, in February of this year, the City Council adopted the Housing and Homeless Committee's motion relative to the Jail InReach program in connection with people experiencing homelessness and related matters. They also directed the department to report back on annual data since the year of 2018 on the number of persons experiencing homelessness held in the department's custody. From 2019 to 2023, 69,723 individuals were held in the department's custody that fall under this criteria. The next metric was the number of arrests of persons experiencing homelessness with a breakdown by type of crime, the average length of time in custody by the type of crime, and the average amount of fees associated with that particular crime. So as you can imagine, due to the volume of various charges, the most common custody arrest charges over the past 5 years were identified. It would have been nearly impossible to identify all the charges spanning those 5 years. So the top 5 were, first was a felony warrant, of which 7,707 arrests were made. The second is 3,793 arrests for misdemeanor warrants. And the next is assault with a deadly weapon. That was 2,129 arrests, followed by arrests for battery, which was 2,106. The last category was robbery with 2,055 arrests. So that was from the 5 years that we looked at with persons experiencing homelessness. The average length of time in custody over the past 5 years was approximately 24 hours. As you may already know, our facilities are type 1 for this type of detention, which means that individuals can be detained for up to between 72 to 96 hours maximum, depending on court holidays and other holidays. So in terms of the requested amount of fees associated with a particular crime that were asked of us, the 5 common were 0 bail. 13,134 individuals experienced the 0 bail process. $50,000 bail was 9,903 individuals. $20,000 bail was 9,503. And no bail was 8,779. The last being $30,000 bail, that was 5,684 arrests. These fees are notwithstanding any other fines, penalties, or assessments imposed by the court or other legal entities outside the bail amount. So this report, I believe, satisfies the request from the City Council for the information they requested. Unless there's any further questions, that will conclude my report.
Thank you, Commander. Any questions from the commissioners for the commander or staff? Okay, hearing none, I would move that we approve recommendation from board action. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much, Commander. Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 4B, the department's report on the revolving training fund semi-annual report. I have Deputy Chief Reyna and your staff. Good morning, Chief. Floor is yours.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chief Choi, Inspector General Mark Smith, City Attorney Carlos Delgado. I'm here with Senior Management Analyst to Juan Rodarte, who is our supervisor in charge of the Post Liaison Unit. We're here to discuss the Revolving Training Fund Semi-Annual Report for the first half of fiscal year 23-24. On October 16, 1996, the Los Angeles City Council passed an ordinance allowing the Los Angeles Police Department to create the Revolving Training Fund. The original budget was $1 million, but was increased to $1.5 million in 2002. The Revolving Training Fund affords our department the opportunity and ability to increase available training opportunities to both sworn and civilian personnel. Revolving Training Fund monies can be expended for the following purposes: the payment of travel, per diem, and tuition related to training, expense and equipment directly related to the delivery of training, and short-term rental of training facilities. At this time, I'd like to allow Juan the opportunity to explain the Revolving Training Fund in more detail.
Good morning. So the Revolving Training Fund is divided into two separate funds or accounts. There's a reimbursable account and a non-reimbursable account. The reimbursable account is allotted for expenditures that will be reimbursed by the California Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, or POST, as they're more commonly referred to. The non-reimbursable account is for expenditures that receive no reimbursement from any source. The RTF is funded through revenue from reimbursements from POST for presenting post-certified classes, reimbursement from POST for tuition, travel expenses, and per diem incurred by department personnel while attending post-reimbursable courses outside of the department, tuition fees received from outside agencies that attend our internal department training, and the college affiliation program with the College of the Canyons. I'll go over that in a little bit of detail. The college affiliation program basically allows our department employees to fill out a student application with the college, which in turn allows them to attend certain College of the Canyons approved courses that are also POST approved. And the department receives a little bit of a reimbursement for that attendance of that training. I'd also like to explain a little bit about what the Post Liaison Unit does in reviewing applications for travel authority and for use of the fund. We ensure that all the paperwork is complete. We ensure that it is following city guidelines for travel and training, and the department's current training objectives as well. And we ensure that there's an agenda attached that goes into detail about what the training is so that it does fall in line with our department training policies. We have 4 staff that generally review all of the training and travel requests that come in through the department, and as well as college tuition reimbursement. And we ensure that any college tuition reimbursement being requested is in line with the overall goals of the education for our department employees.
Okay, and if I could just add, Commissioners, Juan and his team do an incredible job with the travel authorities. Lots of training coming through. Sometimes I'm signing 15 to 20 of those authorities a day. They really go through and they scrutinize every dollar. They're looking at all the agendas, making sure it's appropriate and within our guidelines. So they do a lot of work, an incredible job. So I just want to give a shout out to them for that. To continue on, the RTF is divided into 3 categories for this fiscal year. We have our executive development, which we had $212,000, which was earmarked. Some of that executive development examples would be our command development school for our lieutenants and who are on the captain's list or new captains that are promoted. Our Senior Management Institute for Police, put on by Police Executive Research Forum, which is a 3-week intense course that we send our command staff to. And our Executive Leadership Certificate Program at USC. Those are just some examples of the monies used for executive development. Our professional development, which is the bulk of the money, is $988,000 earmarked in this budget. That's for classes such as post management, which is mandated by new lieutenants to attend, and other mandated training by department personnel. Our FBI LEDA courses, which is Law Enforcement Executive Development Association, we're sending We do that between 3 and 5 times a year. Between 40 and 60 personnel will go to those classes. Sherman Block Leadership Institute, the Women's Leadership Conference, which just occurred, we sent 300 employees to that conference that was put on by LAPOA. And other specialized units such as air support, major crimes, and SWAT will have allotted monies for their training. And then the last of the 3 is our college tuition reimbursement, which we earmarked $300,000 for. And I'll give the mic back over to Juan to discuss statistics and who's using that college tuition reimbursement program.
Sure, it's a college tuition reimbursement. Right now, we're on pace to utilize 70% of that $300,000, which is a little behind our typical 80% that we utilize per year. There could be a number of reasons for that. It could be people graduating from school. But in any case, we're looking at increasing the amount we reimburse per person for bachelor's and master's degree. Currently, it's at $1,500, so we're going to increase it to potentially $2,000, maybe a little bit more, depending on where we stand at the end of the year. It's used pretty evenly across sworn and civilian. The statistics reflect the makeup of the department. So the majority is being used by sworn, but there's 8,000 compared to 3,000 civilians. So it kind of stands to reason that sworn typically do use it a little bit more. As far as advertising efforts, we do put the word out to the department at various meetings. We go to roll call meetings with our career development unit and inform staff there that there is college tuition available to them. There's a travel authority revolving training fund monies for them to utilize, as well as training coordinator meetings, and we do post information on the land from time to time when we see something that might be relevant to the department. We also work with our affinity groups to see if any of their members want to utilize the fund, and we're in talks with them as far as what are relevant trainings for them. Moving forward, we are exploring the possibility of increasing our $1.5 million cap to $2 million or potentially more to cover increases in college tuition, airfare, course fees across the country are going up, so courses are getting more expensive. Airfare is getting more expensive across the country, so we are looking to increase that and work with the commissioners here and the city council and the mayor to see how we can increase that and receive more funds for training.
And if I could add on to that, with the new mandate by post in California State for the policing degree for new recruits coming on, we're not quite sure who's going to pay for that. So we're going to take an aggressive look at increasing our cap on RTF, because if it comes down to where personnel that are coming on the job and have a year or two to get that degree, and we end up having to pay for that, the college tuition reimbursement may have to go up. We're not quite sure. We're still navigating and working with Post on that. It isn't clear yet on what the rules are and who is going to pay for those college degrees. If it's out of pocket on the personnel, if the department has the support, we're not sure yet. So we're going to have to take a hard look at trying to increase this cap as much as we can in anticipation of having to cover those costs. That concludes our report. If there are any questions regarding the RTF.
Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for the very comprehensive report. The revolving training fund is very important. I would like to ask a question/comment. So the college tuition reimbursement currently is at how much?
That would be $1,000 if they're going for an AA, and $1,500 if they're going for a BA or master's, and that's every 6 months, basically.
And you're thinking of increasing to 2,000?
2,000 at least, potentially higher. We want to be in line with the part-time student fees, so we're looking at maybe 2,500 or 3,000, depending on what the fees are.
Okay, thank you. And knowing how much tuitions are increasing, that would certainly seem appropriate. I'd like to ask you.
If I
Go
can
ahead,
add, I'm
sir.
sorry to interrupt. We did increase that probably about a year and a half ago to where it is now. But we're, again, as you encroach higher on those prices, and we're capped at 1.5 million with all the other budgetary issues that we have with that, getting that cap to increase to 2 million would give us a clear opportunity to increase that college tuition reimbursement, which is an incentive for those who want to go back to school, because we all know that college is very expensive now.
I can tell you how many people in this department have come to me and talked about investing in their education. I think it's an investment in our department when they do that. I've also been at hiring mixers where people are taking the application to apply to this department, have asked, can I continue my college education? So that's encouraging. I'm glad you're doing it. What is the arrangement we have with the FBI National Academy? Do we have to pay for that? How does that work?
They cover most of the cost. We pay only for some of the equipment, the uniform that they have to purchase, and one flight that they take in the middle of the academy. And they can use that at any time. It's so they can visit family back here. But that's the extent of it. We're about spending maybe $1,500 per person, and we send 2 people per year.
We send 2 people per year?
Yes.
Excellent, okay. I have no further questions. Vice President Shields.
Thank you, and really great job on this report. I thought it was very well done and comprehensive. I had a few questions. One, seeing that we do send people to a lot of trainings, and some might be kind of unique, specific trainings, is there any attempt to have these people come back and spread some, here are some of the key lessons learned for people who didn't attend those meetings?
There is, as part of the paperwork when you're returning from that training and getting the reimbursement, because a lot of the times the training, they're paying out of pocket up front and then being reimbursed through the RTF, through the department. They have to fill out a form at the end. What did you get out of that training? What have you learned from that training? How are you going to use that training in whatever unit in whatever entity you're working within the department? So we do have that. They do usually come back and talk to their groups or talk to their units. But we probably could do a better job at that overall as a department to make sure. But a lot of the times it's specialized, such as SWAT or bomb squad or air support. So they're coming back and talking within their own unit of, let's say, air support, of their 20 or 30, let's say, pilots that are working air support, but not necessarily going to the department to talk about it because it's specialized. But in cases where there is training that they can come back, we ask that they come back and at least talk to their division or talk to their personnel about what they learned.
Yeah, to the extent we can create that a bigger environment of doing that, whether they come back and talk to roll call or to their squad about just 5 minutes of some of the things that they learned, I think that also helps build leadership skills, and it gives them an opportunity to continue to develop and actually think when they're attending these things, what am I going to report back, right? So the more we're able to do that, I think the better. There are often times, whether it's Department of Justice or other organizations that are providing grants for certain types of trainings. Are those things that your group really looks for and applies for to help supplement some of the current budget?
Well, go ahead.
Unfortunately, due to staffing, we can't really take on the brunt of that work. We do have a grant section that does do some of that. And there's also specialized units that are aware of grants that they apply for as well. But unfortunately, our unit can't really.
Yeah, Commissioner, if I can just add to that, we do have people in grants under Office of Constitutional Policing Policy that are scouring all available grants. And we also have a national liaison back east that also does that for us. So any training opportunities, or quite frankly, opportunities for the department as a whole, will be sent to the proper entity to see if they're interested. So that's an ongoing process.
Excellent. That's great to hear that that's continuing.
So like Chief Choi said, so grant section will put out opportunities depending on the department entity. What is it related to? Currently, Training Bureau is overseeing approximately $10 million in grants. For example, our gamification with Performa, the app that's coming on the phone that is going through videos and it's tactical questions and they grade you on your speed, which is rolling out shortly. That was a $5 million grant that we have for that. That's rolling through. So we do oversee in Training Bureau some grants that come through. For example, we have a grant with our virtual reality to create new scenarios in our virtual reality. So when we see those opportunities, we do apply for those that we feel that would be appropriate for us and that we can handle that grant and have the staffing to oversee it.
Wonderful. Thank you. And my last question, having, attended some of the graduations and also I know that we have graduates from other departments other than the LAPD in our police academy training. And given that, the LAPD's police academy is probably the best in the world or country at least, that is there an attempt to get some, even like local university police or others to come and take the training at the police academy? I know some of them go to like county police academies. Is there any opportunity to expand those relationships?
We could. We have MOUs. Just off the top of my head, we're training USC, Park Rangers, Beverly Hills, You'll see others, Inglewood comes through. So we do have MOUs with quite a few. I want to say it's about 7 or 8. We don't want to expand out too much because we only have allowed 50 in the class is our limit with post, and the exemption would be up to 60. So as we continue on in our recruitment and marketing efforts, we want to fill those classes. So we look at LAPD first, and then if we have spaces, go to the outside agencies. But to increase the amount of people that other agencies that could come in could put a burden on us if our recruitment efforts take off the way we want, and we're hoping they're going to allow them the opportunity to join our class, because there's only so many spaces you can have each month.
Got it. And maybe I was just thinking about my alma mater, UCLA. I'd love to see them participate.
So I can comment on that. Chief Thomas has reached out to me, and we are looking at including them in our academy classes.
Thank you, Vice President Shields. Commissioner Garcia.
Just a comment. I think it's also super important to really have those folks who have gone through the training to be formally a part of the presentations with you all at roll calls. I mean, there's nothing better than, ambassadors who've been enrolled and have benefited from the services. I'd also like to, at some point, understand or kind of hear some stories around those who have potentially taken advantage of the multiple levels, right? College, professional, and then executive throughout their careers, and just curiously gain an understanding of how that has benefited them, one, in their career, in terms of where they stand now, and then two, their experience in the department and how that potentially is different from those who aren't taking advantage of some of these opportunities.
Sure. We could probably next time highlight some of those cases, working with our career development and our mentoring programs, and with Juan's team to see those people who have progressed through there, maybe come on the job with an AA and have gone on to get their masters and moved up through the ranks. So we can find there's plenty of cases out there. We can find some and present next time. Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. If I could just pivot back for a moment and thank you, Vice President Shields. When I was in my prior life at the airport police, we made it mandatory for people who went to training to come back and brief their units on the training that they received. What we would welcome here is if you have anyone who attends a particularly unique training that might benefit the commission hearing about it. I think of one, for example. I sent a lieutenant to an international canine symposium in Madrid, and he came back and briefed the department. It was amazing to hear what canines can be trained to detect cancer and money if it's hidden in a house. So those are the kinds of things that if you find someone amongst the ranks that you believe the commission would benefit from the skill sets that are being gained from them going to that training, we'd appreciate it. We could certainly put them on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. I can just think of one case. I just signed a travel authority 2 days ago with a vice officer from Hollywood who's going to a human trafficking training out of state to get that expertise. I know we have our human trafficking task force, but officers also, and that was self-initiated by the employee, wanted to go and get this additional training because he is a vice officer working the streets in Hollywood and wants to be able to recognize things and understand the concept of human trafficking, what's happening out there, how to identify that, and how to intervene and rescue people from the streets that are involved in human trafficking. So plenty of stories there too, Commissioner. We can have some of those, absolutely.
Thank you, Chief. And the last thing, and again, with all due respect for the chain of command, I spoke to Captain Pachillo a couple weeks ago at the Mixer, and we have a tremendous number of officers in the department who have degrees. And I've asked her to come back with a study by degree, if she would let us know what the department looks like with regards to AAs, BAs, masters, doctoral degrees of some of our officers. I went out to see Captain Castillo recently in North Hollywood. Most people don't even know he has a PhD, and I think people should know that. And I think that that's something we should highlight as we go forward as an attraction to people who may want to apply to this department.
Absolutely. And years ago, it was difficult to maybe track employees who had degrees, but with the education bonus for MOU 24 for lieutenants and below, and the extra pay they're getting for those degrees, it's easier to track department personnel that have degrees and what type. So yeah, absolutely, we'll come back and report on that.
Well, again, thank you both for a very comprehensive and detailed report. I would move that we adopt the recommendation for board action. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The board will now recess into closed session. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss agenda item 6A and 6B in accordance with Government Code 54957.
The commission is back from closed session, and we will have a report out on closed session item A by Ms. Farber.
At a regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on April 2nd, 2024, during the closed session, the board adopted the Chief of Police's recommendation on a 4-0 vote to reclassify the incident from in-custody death to death investigation. And for the ICD number 2023 for tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 2. For drawing, exhibiting, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 2. Non-lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 2. And that was at a 4-0 vote.
Thank you. For closed session item 6B, the commission voted unanimously to appoint Assistant Inspector General Django Sibley as acting Executive Director of the Board of Police Commissioners. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Yeah.